In this video, we give you some tips for good CPAP therapy. First of all, a premise. As reported in the manual, helmets must only be used by trained medical or nursing staff, and it is important that the patient is constantly monitored throughout the CPAP therapy. It is now established that with helmets it is possible to carry out CPAP therapies more effective than with a mask. And above all, it is possible to carry out CPAP therapies more prolonged over time than with a mask and with less discomfort for the patient. However, it is important to have some precautions to carry out a good CPAP therapy, and above all, a successful therapy. First, let's deal with the flow. The flow, which is introduced into the helmet, must be sufficiently high to avoid the phenomenon of so-called rebreathing, that is, the breathing of the patient's CO2, and therefore an adequate flow to allow the washing of the CO2. Various international studies have shown that this flow must be at least 40 or better 50 liters per minute. It was also pointed out that the ventilators are generally not adequate to guarantee these flows. Usually the ventilator provides a flow to maintain a set pressure inside the helmet, but once it reaches it, the flow drops, so there is not a constant flow sufficient to wash out the CO2. So how to ensure these high flows needed in CPAP therapies? In the past, boxes of compressed air and oxygen were used in order to guarantee flows of 40-50 liters per minute from the mixture of air and oxygen. However, they have a major limitation, that is, they require compressed air and therefore cannot be used in all those departments where compressed air is not available. So, over the years, other devices like this one proposed by HAROL have spread, i.e. devices with a Venturi effect, therefore devices that do not require compressed air. HAROL proposes the Venturi 9293/D generator. It is a very efficient generator that allows to deliver flows up to 180 liters per minute. It is a simple device with no electrical and electronic parts, so it is easy to maintain. It is a simple device to use and can also be used outside intensive care, such as cardiological ICU, medicine, and pneumology. It is equipped with an integrated pressure gauge and does not require compressed air, so it can be used truly in all departments. By selecting the desired oxygen flow rate on the main flow meter, the generator withdraws a certain amount of air from the environment, which, when added to the oxygen flow, determines the flow to the patient, which can be adjusted up to 180 liters per minute. By acting on the second flow meter, it is possible to adjust the FiO2 from 30% to 100%. It is recommended to put a filter in the inlet line to protect the device from dust. Through the appropriate table provided by HAROL, it is possible to know the flow delivered and the FiO2. The generator is available with various connections for connection to the oxygen system to be specified at the time of purchase. For example, SIO or UNI. The oxygen fraction can be obtained from the tables, but especially during the first uses, it is advisable to have an oximeter available. To reduce the noise, which during CPAP therapies is actually high, a very important thing is to use mu tubes on the inside and not the simple cheap polyethylene tubes, which, being corrugated inside, increase turbulence and therefore increase the noise even more. Another thing that can be done is to use HEPA filters, normal filters, which are placed in the input line and which allow to linearize the flow and therefore reduce the noise. Finally, in some cases, it is possible to think of using simple earplugs to be placed on the patient. Regarding the need to humidify the helmet air, it must be said that with FiO2 not too high, typically below 60%, with Venturi systems and using a lot of ambient air, it is not necessary to humidify the flow. If you use compressed air or very high FiO2, You can think of humidifying but with devices specific for high flows, and in any case, keeping the temperature not too high to avoid condensation on the walls of the helmet. In the end, some words about the fastening of the helmets. In silicone helmets, it is possible to fasten with loose suspenders, and by introducing the appropriate optional cushion, it is also possible to fix them without straps. These, therefore, are all the components necessary for proper CPAP therapy. The helmet, a smooth tube on the inside, the PEEP valve, 1 or 2 filters, an oximeter, a Venturi flow generator, and earplugs.